Hello and thanks for tuning into this episode. In the last batch I asked what you would like to look at next, and Craig from my mail list was the first to respond. So he asked what my approach was to taking a photograph, and then secondly he asked me about aperture priority and shutter speed priority, also known as TV. They're actually kind of linked, so I'm going to talk about them both in this little video now. So my approach to a photograph is broken down into three things really. I believe a photograph should have three components to make it a brilliant photograph. So the first one needs to be the moment. So is the moment good? Is the moment brilliant? Is it going to convey a story? Second up is composition, okay? So, how's it going to look? Can you get a better angle? Can you make it look even better? Can you exaggerate something to emphasize the story? And the third one is how good is the lighting, okay? And for me, it is in that order. So if I'm at a wedding and, I don't know, I'm crawling around underneath a table because there's loads of kids causing havoc, okay? For me, it's the moment that's going to be first. I'll always think about the moment first. Or if it's a best man starting to cry, or the groom or the bride or anyone like that, or it could be, I can start to see someone smirking and they're about to start to laugh. It's the moment that I want to capture. So I'll always capture the moment first. If I can, and I can see that the moment is still happening over time, then I'm going to change my composition. So I've already taken a safe shot, which is just an immediate reaction to whatever's happening. Then I'm going to carry on and compose in a way that's even better. And then from there, if the moment's still happening and I'm really lucky, I'm going to quickly analyze the light and see how I can, again, convey that even further. But those three steps, moment, composition, and lighting, don't always happen, and that's okay. I exist as a wedding photographer to document what happens on a wedding day. Obviously, ideally, I'm going to make things as stunning as possible, but moments happen and moments pass, and that's not really down to me, that's down to guests, and that's down to what happens. I'm not going to ask someone to recreate something just so I can change the lighting or so I can go back and do something. If someone's doing something repetitively, even better. Every few minutes, if they're going to do something, I can go back, I can think, I can exchange and just move on with that and develop the idea. But on a wedding day, I can take 3, 4, 5,000 images because I am non-stop moving, I'm non-stop changing my composition, and I'm non-stop trying to look for the best light for that exact moment to happen. So having foresight is really crucial. And on that note, and this is how it bleeds into the next question, so I shoot on 90% of the day aperture priority, which is AV. AV stands for aperture value. TV stands for time value. I believe that's correct in saying, but TV just means shutter priority, okay? So 90% of the time I'm in aperture priority, which means I decide how much depth of field I want, okay? So I'm typically quite shallow in my work. So I'm probably at the 1.4, 2.8s, max usually I'll go to f4. But for most of my documentary work, that's sort of what I'm at, because I want it to be really quick and I want to single out subjects and what they're doing from the crowd. I don't want to just have a mass of in-focus people, rarely I do anyway. So that's why I shoot really shallow depth of fields. It also means it's really nice and consistent because I can literally just lock the camera into that, leave it as it is. And let's be honest, while I am pretty good at maths and I can work in manual, the money we invest into our cameras, they're really good at maths. They can do it far quicker than us. So that's why I shoot 90% on there. I then go to manual if I'm doing any off-camera flash work, or if it's a seriously difficult lighting condition and the camera's making some mistakes, which is amazingly rare. Apart from that, my landscape work is all in manual as well. But like I say, to capture the moment as quick as I can, which could even be a split second, me turning around, picking up the camera, taking a photo. Sometimes it can be even me walking, seeing something happen, hold the camera, not even look and take the photo because I know that moment will disappear as soon as that's happened. So that's sort of how I work. So as I said, AV stands for aperture value, TV stands for time value, and that's basically you deciding what you want to have precedent of when you're looking at your settings. So for me, for example, like I say, depth of field is more important for me than the shutter speed, 9 times out of 10. So therefore I'm going to go for aperture priority because that's what I care about. If I'm photographing something that's moving really quickly, okay, and I need to sync with that, I'm going to go for time value or shutter speed, at which point I can dial it in and just, again, let the camera figure out the rest. Now, while all this is happening, in the background, your ISO is still going to be a setting that you're going to have to change. My camera does have an auto ISO setting, which I do use. Quite a lot of people say it's cheating, but again, cameras are really smart. And as long as you know how to work with it, then I don't see a problem with working quickly and more efficiently. So in order to work with it, you need to understand how a camera figures out what it needs to figure out, all the maths and everything else behind it. When your camera is in either aperture priority or shutter speed, or TV priority, in general, it's doing maths and it's trying to figure out what it's looking at. Now, obviously cameras aren't as clever as us. They don't really know, they just see different shades and different tonalities coming into the sensor, and they're actually trying to make them all grey, okay? So cameras are trying to average all of the spectrum from pitch black to white, whatever you're pointing at, because as far as the camera's concerned, that could in real life not be pitch black, that could be grey. So the way to use both these modes correctly is to tell it what it's actually metering for, and we can do that with exposure compensation, which typically goes from -3 to +3, and there's 0 in the middle, which is typically the correct exposure. So if you, for example, take the compensation and put it down to a -1, okay, it's going to make everything darker. So if you're shooting at something that's black, you want to go down to -1, because your camera will understand that actually what it's looking at, it needs to make darker. If you're pointing at something that's white, if you go to +1, it will understand that what you're pointing at, it needs to make it lighter than just grey. So have a little look and have a play around and just see what happens. As I said before, experimentation for me is the best way to learn. So have a little look, but hopefully that's answered your questions, Craig, and I look forward to hearing more questions, and hopefully I'll be doing even more videos just to help you all out. So thank you very much, and feel free to subscribe.